Grandma, Mommy says her tummy hurts. Help.
Around 9 p.m., I held my breath as I received a call from my 5-year-old granddaughter. "Can I talk to Mommy?" When I said that, my daughter, on the other end of the line, said,
"It hurts. It hurts, Mom."
My daughter's voice sounded weak. For my usually strong and resilient daughter to say this, the pain must have been severe.
I called Dad too, but he said he's drinking and told me to do whatever I want.
It's just unbelievable to leave behind his sick wife and toddler and to go drinking. I was utterly appalled at what kind of person he could be, but there was no time to dwell on that. I quickly called an ambulance, and I hopped into a taxi and headed straight to my daughter's house. After about 15 minutes, I arrived at my daughter's house. Inside, despite it being winter, there was no heating on, and the room was cold. My daughter, perhaps trying to bear the pain, was curled up and whimpering, while my granddaughter was crying and gently stroking her back. "Hang in there," I said, embracing my daughter, and she whispered,
"Please take care of my child."
Then, she lost consciousness. "Where's the ambulance? Hurry up and help my daughter." After about 5 minutes, the ambulance finally arrived, but it felt like a very long time. And on that day, I lost my beloved daughter. I'm Nancy, a 62-year-old housewife. My husband, whom I supported for many years, passed away 3 years ago, and now I spend my days feeling lonely. However, my daughter Meg lives about a 15-minute drive away, and she often comes to visit with my granddaughter Ashley, which helps ease the loneliness a bit. My 5-year-old granddaughter, who resembles my daughter when she was young, is obedient, kind, and really adorable. Meg's husband is named Thomas, and they met as colleagues at the company where she worked and got married. He gave off an impression of being dependable and manly, so I thought he was the perfect person to entrust my quiet daughter to. However, looking back now, I realize I should have taken more time to truly understand his character. After getting married, at Thomas's insistence, Meg chose to become a housewife and support her husband. They seemed to be living happily for about a year after their marriage. However, things started to change in Thomas's attitude around the time Meg got pregnant and Ashley, my granddaughter, was born. He became what you might call a husband wears the pants, acting arrogantly and leaving all childcare responsibilities to Meg while he did nothing, which is quite uncommon behavior among young people these days. One day, my daughter came over looking lonely and shared her concerns with me.
"Mom, I might not be able to come over as often as before."
"What's wrong? Is something going on?" It turns out that the amount of money my son-in-law gives for expenses keeps decreasing, and now he only gives $500 a month. With my granddaughter Ashley growing up rapidly, the cost of food is increasing, and she also needs to buy clothes for her. So, my daughter has been cutting down on her own food expenses, but now even the bus fare to come to our house has become a burden. Come to think of it, she always used to eat voraciously whenever she came over. Yet strangely, she seemed to be losing weight every time we met. It felt odd to me. I asked her about it many times, but no matter how many times I asked, my daughter insisted that everything was fine. From her demeanor, I secretly worried about her. Since then, I started giving her money and even delivering food to her. However, it was challenging to intervene in their marital issues, so all I could do was to encourage her to contact me anytime she needed. But, I should have taken on the role of the villain and spoken up to my son-in-law at that time. If my husband were alive, he surely would have done so. I still deeply regret my decision at that time, and it weighs heavily on my heart to this day. One cold winter night, around 9 p.m., I received a call from my 5-year-old granddaughter.
Grandma, Mommy says her tummy hurts. Please help.
When I asked to talk to her mom, my daughter asked for help in a weak voice. Given that my daughter has always been resilient since she was young, she must be in a lot of pain.
Dad went out drinking. I called him, but he's not coming home.
My granddaughter told me that. Despite her young age of 5, she's trying her best to help her mother. I felt frustration towards such careless behavior from my son-in-law. But now is not the time for dwelling on that. Grandma's coming right away. Everything will be okay. I arranged for an ambulance, hopped into a taxi, and arrived at my daughter's house in about 15 minutes. The ambulance hadn't arrived yet, and as I hurried into my daughter's house, I noticed there was no heating on despite the cold winter weather. My daughter was suffering on the floor, while my granddaughter, in her pajamas, was crying beside her, saying,
Mommy, Mommy.
A 5-year-old child wouldn't have been able to turn on the heating. I took off my coat and put it over my granddaughter to keep her warm. Granddaughter, Grandma, please help Mommy. I lifted my daughter up in my arms. Hang in there, I said to her.
Please take care of my child.
After she said that, she stopped responding to my calls. She became breathless, and even though I wasn't a doctor, it was obvious we didn't have much time. After about 5 minutes, the ambulance finally arrived. It was only 5 minutes, but it felt incredibly long, and I was terribly anxious. In the end, my daughter was taken to the hospital unconscious. During that time, I tried to contact my son-in-law multiple times but couldn't reach him. What on earth is he doing at a time like this? Thanks to the dedicated efforts of the doctors at the hospital, Meg regained consciousness temporarily. Meg? Can you hear me? Both Ashley and I are here.
Mommy, Mommy.
Mom, please, help Ashley. Take her away from Thomas and the diary.
Eh? What? I couldn't quite catch it clearly, so I waited for my daughter to speak again, but she lost consciousness once more, and that was the last time she woke up. They told me that when she fell down the stairs, she suffered a severe blow to her abdomen, causing internal organ damage. If the treatment had been administered a bit earlier, she might have survived. In front of my daughter, who would never smile again, I was overwhelmed with grief to the point where I couldn't stand. And my daughter's last words, "Help Ashley, take her away from Thomas and the diary," got me worried.
Grandma, Mommy won't wake up. Mommy.
All I could do was to hold Ashley tight as she refused to leave her mother, whose body is now cold. After a while, when my granddaughter calmed down, I gently asked her what had happened. Apparently, Meg had been teaching Ashley how to use the speed dial on the phone to call her dad, Grandma, and her close friends in case of an emergency. You did so well. I'm so proud of you. I praised my granddaughter for being able to make the call, but Ashley just shook her head and kept crying. And gradually, through Ashley's words, the shocking truth began to unfold. I was left speechless by what I learned. What should I do now? But for Meg and Ashley's sake, I can't just keep grieving. The next morning, I finally received a call from my son-in-law on my daughter's phone.
Meg? Does your stomach ache better?
She passed away.
Huh? Did she? Is this Nancy? Are you saying Ashley passed away?
Son-in-law misunderstood and panicked, thinking that my granddaughter had passed away. It's not Ashley, it's my daughter Meg who passed away. When I told my son-in-law, he was momentarily surprised, but then he muttered.
Thank goodness it wasn't Ashley.
The way he spoke, as if his own wife didn't matter at all, made me tremble with anger. I will never forgive him. I waited for a time when my son-in-law wasn't around and used my daughter's key to enter the house. I searched for my daughter's diary and found it in a drawer of the closet. As I read its contents, I was shocked and my anger grew even stronger. 3 days later, my son-in-law greeted the mourners at the funeral with a straight face, shedding fake tears.
It's all my fault for not being there because of work. I'm sorry, Meg.
My son-in-law, lying shamelessly about being at work when he was actually out drinking. The mourners seemed to sympathize with Thomas, saying it's a pity for him to suddenly lose his wife even though their daughter was still young. During this time, Ashley refused to go near her father and insisted on staying close to me, never wanting to leave my side. Poor thing, she clenches her fists with tears in her eyes. Even though she's only 5 years old, it seemed like she understands that she'd never see her mother again. Perhaps Thomas was asked by the attendees about why his daughter wasn't by his side. He approached us, but as soon as he did, Ashley stiffened and clung to me tightly.
Come to Daddy.
No, Daddy is scary.
As my son-in-law forcefully pulled Ashley's arm and she resisted, I pulled my granddaughter closer to me. If she doesn't want to go, there's no need to force her.
Nancy, I'd appreciate it if you didn't spoil Ashley. I'm her father.
Feeling the chillingly cold glare in his eyes, I clenched my fists, knowing I couldn't let Ashley anywhere near Thomas. I firmly retorted. Just before Meg passed away, she told me to help Ashley and to keep her away from you. Why do you think she said that?
What?
Thomas gasped for a moment and then looked at me with a probing gaze.
Meg said that? Did she say anything else?
Perhaps he was worried about the truth coming to light, but I felt it was too soon to reveal everything. I decided to expose his lies in front of more witnesses. At that moment, the start of the funeral was announced by the officiant, and Thomas reluctantly returned to his seat. Ashley stayed close to me, refusing to leave my side, and sat next to me. Looking around the funeral hall, I noticed many colleagues from the company where Meg had worked before she got married to Thomas. They were all genuinely saddened to bid farewell to Meg. The way my daughter had always treated everyone with kindness was remembered, and tears welled up once again. Why couldn't I have helped her sooner? I feel so powerless. I was frustrated and overwhelmed, and I felt like I was about to go crazy. But then, my granddaughter Ashley tightly held my hand. Amidst the sadness, the funeral proceeded, and my son-in-law stood up to deliver the eulogy.
My wife fell down the stairs and suffered a severe blow to her abdomen. I can't believe something like this could happen from such a small accident. We were a happy couple, and never had a single argument. Meg, please come back.
He put on a passionate performance, his face turning red, his voice trembling, and tears streaming down his cheeks. His convincing acting moved the mourners to tears as well. Then, Ashley, who had been sitting quietly beside me, suddenly stood up and pointed at her father.
Liar. Wasn't it Daddy who kicked Mommy's tummy?
Ashley clenched her lips tightly, glaring at Thomas, but tears streamed down her cheeks.
Huh? What's going on?
But he said she fell down the stairs, right?
There was a murmur among the mourners. It was understandable. What Ashley had just said was completely different from what Thomas had told us. Suddenly faced with this unexpected turn of events, Everyone seemed bewildered. Thomas, in response to Ashley's words, hurriedly tried to cover up the situation.
Ashley, are you upset because mommy was gone when daddy was at work? But you shouldn't tell lies.
Daddy kicked mommy and pushed her down the stairs. Then daddy went somewhere. After that, mommy cried saying her tummy hurt. Really, really hurt.
Yeah, that's right. Mommy's tummy hurt when daddy wasn't there, so it's not daddy's fault.
I called daddy to help mommy, but he said he was drinking and told me to do whatever I want. So, I called grandma.
Ashley, don't say anything more.
Thomas, noticing the rising voices of condemnation from the attendees, hurriedly approached Ashley and tried to forcibly silence her. I stood in front of my granddaughter and glared at Thomas.
Old lady, stay out of this. Back off.
He tried to push me aside, but I pulled out a notebook in front of him. It was Meg's diary. In this diary, it's written what you have done. Everyone, please listen. As I sought permission from the attendees to start reading, Thomas tried to intervene, but some of Meg's colleagues restrained him. I borrowed the microphone from the host and began reading meticulously, ensuring not to miss a single word. There, it was passionately detailed how she had been subjected to verbal abuse from her husband on a regular basis, how she had not been provided with adequate financial support, and how she had been suffering. Additionally, it was written that whenever Thomas was in a bad mood, he would hit or kick her, resulting in constant injuries. The description of such suffering was so painful to read that it became almost unbearable. It seems that Meg wanted to divorce, but even if she wanted to, Thomas threatened her, saying he would never let go of Ashley, leaving her unable to do anything. At the end, there were words written with trembling hands. It hurts. Mom, help me. I couldn't stop crying. The harrowing contents of the diary prompted cries that sounded almost like screams from Meg's close acquaintances. Meg had endured this in silence, unable to confide in anyone about the truth.
Shut up. I was just disciplining my wife. It's Meg's fault for not being able to handle household chores properly while raising the child.
Didn't you use her as a punching bag for your stress? I know you didn't even provide enough living expenses.
I was giving her $500 a month. It's Meg's fault for not being able to manage it.
You can't live on just that. She was even sacrificing her own meals, yet you were doing whatever you like.
It's my money, so I can go wherever I want, right?
Only $500 for living expenses.
Hitting and beating as discipline.
Was he in a pub?
There's a murmur spreading among the people around, and everyone is giving Thomas suspicious looks, whispering to each other. He started to lose control, and then he exploded.
I'm not at fault, I'm telling you. I just gave her a little kick, and she fell down the stairs on her own.
You're admitting to it yourself, aren't you?
I don't know. I went drinking right away, and I wasn't there when she died, wasn't I?
If you had taken her to the hospital immediately, she might have been saved. I'll never forgive you. With no one siding with him, Thomas began to cry pitifully. Someone among the attendees must have made a call, as the sound of police sirens echoed through the venue. Thomas tried to run away in a panic, but he was restrained by relatives and handed over to the police. You did so well, Ashley, I said as I hugged Ashley, who was sobbing uncontrollably. The police, after examining my daughter's body before burial, found evidence. Taking a life is a serious crime, And given Thomas's lack of remorse, it's unlikely he'll be released from behind bars anytime soon. Ashley is now living with me. My granddaughter is gradually regaining her composure and we're starting to see her smile again. It's heartening to see Ashley's smile, and I'm focusing on improving my health every day to ensure I can raise her well. I would like to live a peaceful life with Ashley from now on.